Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. We'll have various speakers, guest speakers, attorneys, accountants, economic advisors. The cool thing about this is that you're actually getting to see scenes behind the scenes. So we all have headphones on because we're recording a radio show that is going to be airing on the air on radio. But in addition, you get to see what happens during the commercial breaks, how we prepare for the next segment. So it's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of levity because I like to try to throw a little bit of humor in there because, just business by itself sometimes gets a little boring. So you got to always kind of break things. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. Cool. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Okay. And away we go. Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hahn of Pacific Private Money and Lou Botmal of LPL Financial. And today's trivia theme is operettas, or should I say are operettas. We got to teach some class here on the Best of Investing and a little grammar too. Okay, our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 on Saturdays at noon. Now today's special guest is Mike Dawson, who is a portfolio manager from MFS Mutual Funds, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the oldest mutual fund family in the U.S. Mike, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Oh, Edward, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good. And Lou, why don't you just go right in, because what portfolio does he manage?
Well, I know Mike for managing municipal bonds in the state of California, although I think he controls bonds in several states for MFS. I think most investors know that if you own a state-specific municipal bond, it is tax-free both federally and on the state level. But I'm going to turn it over to Mike because Mike's the expert in this arena and we're not. And Mike, maybe you can talk to our listeners real quick about why municipal bonds are a good investment.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's no secret that there's been, a ton of volatility in the markets overall in the last few years. And if investors are thinking about an asset class that can deliver real stable income, obviously on a tax-free basis with all of the talk and headline news about changes in the tax codes, and then certainly a way to be as immunized from all of the volatility occurring, whether it's in Europe or in Asia, you find the municipal bond market is probably one of the most plain vanilla safe havens in spite of some of the headline news that's hit our market recently in the last few years about budget deficits and so forth. When you start looking at real risk and loss of principal and volatility in the changes in value, it is so small compared to these other markets that I think some of that headline news gets overblown. And this market really is a place for investors where they can buy and hold and have a certain amount of needs met for their income, or investing in plain vanilla, and protection from the massive amount of volatility that's been taking place in the market.
Okay. Hey, Mike, with interest rates low now but potentially creeping up, would you favor short-term munis right now, or are you still looking for long-term?
Yeah, so our outlook is that rates eventually are going to go up, but for the next couple of years at least, we are going to be in a relatively low interest rate environment. And a lot of that has to do with and being driven by what's happening with monetary policy, not just in the U.S. but abroad, and keeping short rates extremely low. Our feeling is that for some investors that are concerned about potential changes in interest rates, that rates may start to creep up sooner rather than later, then absolutely shorter maturity bonds can can definitely mitigate some of that interest rate risk when rates do go up. However, we do feel like that point and period is a little bit further out in the next couple of years, and that you're still safer investing in bonds, even out to 10 to 15-year maturities. That's the area that we found to be the sweet spot in the yield curve as of late. We're finding we're getting the most amount of income for a given amount of interest rate risk.
And do you guys only buy AAA bonds, or how low quality do you guys buy?
Yeah, we still favor the investment grade market. The economy is in a muddle along scenario, and from our opinion, so it's going to be positive but low through the elections into next year. With all that kind of uncertainty, we definitely feel like the mid to and low investment grade categories, a single A, even triple B, you are getting paid for some extra credit risk in the muni market.
Yeah, I was told years ago that 95% of all munis that had ever defaulted were actually AAA. So I don't think having triple B bonds is a bad thing.
No, in fact, a lot of investors don't understand how safe even triple B rated, the lowest investment grade rated municipal bonds can be. There are studies that you can find that are out there. Some of them done by the rating agencies, others over long periods of time, 20, 25 years plus, when they compared the default rates on municipal bonds and related that to corporate bonds. They found that triple B rated municipal bonds defaulted less historically than AAA rated corporate bonds. And that was just an amazing statistic that we've seen in the past that most average investors don't understand how safe munis are.
And I'm sorry for going on like this because I have all these little questions here. Would that have included both general obligation and revenue bonds, like the whole gambit?
It would absolutely include the whole gamut.
Wow.
Generally speaking, the revenue bond sector is about twice as large as the general obligation sector in the overall municipal bond market, whether it's California or nationally, whatever you're looking at. So we know that about a third of the bonds in the muni market overall are issued by state and local municipalities, those as plain vanilla general obligation bonds.
It's funny.
About 2/3 are revenue-backed bonds.
It's funny. Even though interest rates are fairly low and the rate of return on munis is not fantastic on a current rate, I know many people hate paying taxes so much that they would rather have a super low return if it's tax free. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, Mike, that's a good question. Taylor, into this thing. Everyone's kind of nervous about the election and tax policy moving forward. We have a lot of debt to pay off as a government, and people feel tax rates are going up, and we've seen the asset class of munis rise in value over the last, I'd say, 6 or 9 months. Is that accurate, or and if so, where's it headed?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely accurate. In fact, there's been a great run in the muni market. If you go back even further, pretty much at least until from last spring, a year ago spring, I should say, there's been an incredible run in the muni market. I think really what happened was we went through a period where we were getting awful headline news. And after, I think, the dust settled and people realized that widespread defaults were not occurring, that it was safe to dip their toes back into the muni market. There was tremendous value there. And the total returns on some of these bonds and the price appreciation on many of these bonds has been easily in the double digits. Equity-like returns for a pretty safe investment.
Wow.
So where we stand from here, we think that going forward, you're much more likely to get a return that resembles more of the coupon in terms of what you get in terms of interest paid, and you might still get a little bit of capital appreciation from bonds, maybe in that mid to low investment grade, that will have some spread tightening relative to the highest grade bonds, and that will allow for a little bit, maybe 1 or 2% of capital appreciation. So,
okay. Hey, Bob.
Future returns shouldn't be anything like what we've seen over the last year or so.
Okay, we're in the studio with Mike Dawson, who is a portfolio manager for MFS Mutual Fund, specifically in the muni market. When we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to ask Mike what bonds he favors. So, audience, make sure you stay tuned with us. Quick little announcement here. Last week we had a special trivia question. Here was the question: almost half of women don't want their mothers to see what? And the answer was inside their refrigerators. Okay, here is our first commercial break, and here's our first trivia question. And again, the theme is operettas. Mark's favorite theme. The songs "Music of the Night" and And all I ask of you. I'm sorry. Okay. Are from
Really?
Andrew Lloyd Webber's
Stop.
operetta.
Just
Which
stop,
one?
please.
It's just stop. Yeah. Hey, not only do I have a face for radio, I have a voice for. No, I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back. Excellent.
So, Mike, we're going to come right back to you in about a minute or 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a few minutes.
You okay, Mike?
Is he still there?
Not a problem.
All right,
Okay.
Very good.
Sorry for taking up all your
Who
time.
knows the answer to the question?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You must have been on
Oh,
a
come on.
date.
Seriously? You guys don't know?
No, Phantom of the Opera?
Yes, of
Phantom of the
course.
That's the only one I know.
It's not really an opera, is it?
Phantom of
Actually,
the
that's
Best
the
of
only
Investing.
one I've ever seen, too. That's how
That's
pathetic
not an
I am.
opera.
Really?
Phantom of the Opera is not an opera.
It's operetta.
It's
Operetta.
operetta, yes.
That's why I said that today's.
That's the only operetta I've ever
Otherwise,
seen, is Phantom of
it's
the
it's
Operetta.
Brunhilde, you know. And dun, 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 dun,
Now
dun.
we're talking about turn.
I can't do operas.
When they have Family Guy the musical, then I'll go see it.
So, this place is so classy.
Or, Homer
Don't put that on TV.
He goes,
Don't put that on TV. I have a tie on, for gosh sake. You know.
I got shorts on.
All right, yep.
Yep.
I got a question.
Yes.
Is there any chance you can bring up his volume so I can pick it up and turn down there if you have to?
Yeah.
Would that work for you?
Yeah, I thought he was pretty loud. Oh, he's not. He's
Yeah,
down there.
thank you.
Okay.
That works? Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we're gonna let Mark answer this question.
What?
He's gonna answer the operetta question. Ready? Here you go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn of Pacific Private Money and Lou Botmal of LPL Financial. And when we get to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is operettas. The songs Music of the Night and All I Ask of You are from what Andrew Lloyd Webber operetta? Mark.
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Family Guy the musical?
Family Guy the Musical. That is incorrect. What's the only other one? You
Phantom
know?
of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera.
That's the only one I've ever
That one is
seen.
correct. Okay, very good. And we're also
Oh
in
my
the
God.
studio here with Mike Dawson from MFS Mutual Funds. And when we just before we cut to the break, I told the listeners I was going to ask you this question: what municipal bonds do you favor nowadays, Mike?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of sectors that we've been really excited about. I mean, with a lot of the headline news about new federal healthcare regulations, the tax-exempt healthcare market has seen a lot of opportunities in bonds that had been beaten down, particularly where there were some bonds that had some greater share of Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement. We also have seen some bonds for the higher ed sector, so whether it's private universities that might have, huge endowments. Certainly they've had, a lot of plant equipment and rising tuitions that they've had to deal with. But for the most part, a lot of these bonds, they're going to be around forever. They have great security, and some of those yields had spread out wider to some of the highest quality bonds in the recent past. So healthcare, higher ed, and then we even like some of the California school district bonds. Believe it or not, some of these areas where they get most of their revenue from property tax revenues, they have huge assessed valuations, multi-billion-dollar assessed valuations in their cities and towns. And in those particular cases, they also are part of the teeter program in California, which if they ever did run into a problem, the county that the city is located in can offer some financial help when those assessed valuations drop. So there's a lot of protection for bondholders in there, in spite of what happens, with the headline news about local school districts.
Well, it's funny you bring up headlines, Mike, because if you can comment quickly, in the paper, I read the Journal and those other things which are highlighting this all the time, but clients get snippets of municipal investment news every once in a while, and 90% of the time it's negative. Locally here in the Bay Area, we are conflicted with Vallejo and Stockton, which has been the headlines about bankruptcy, and then San Bernardino, I guess, has some issues as well. Can you comment about those at all, or let us know a little bit more?
I mean, sure. I mean, again, this is all from a bondholder's perspective, my perspective, and not necessarily if I were, a citizen of any one of these towns. We look at it as some of the issues that had driven, in the case of Vallejo, some of these issues were prior to the recession, where you had a great run-up in property tax revenues. And all the while, you also have a period of giving out some relatively larger contracts for municipal employee unions, whether it's for fire or for police or even just for the municipal employees themselves, that some of those contracts, when looked out over the next 5-10 years when they entered into them, might have looked fine with the huge run-up in real estate that they had, but they were wholly unprepared for the drop in property tax revenues after the recession occurred. And so what ended up happening, and it was not unique to just those towns, there's 10s, 20, 30 different towns that you have in the state itself, a lot in Central California and Inland Empire, where they saw some of the most severe drops in real estate affected in a really short period of time their property tax revenues. So they ran into trouble with the greatest proportion of their local revenue base, and they weren't able to cut expenses fast enough. And that's what really caused a lot of these areas to have some severe stress. I can speak a little bit to the fact that, Stockton and to some degree San Bernardino are also trying to find ways of using Chapter 9 bankruptcy in order to potentially renegotiate some of those pension employee contracts that they have for health care and for retirement.
Right.
That, as far as the budget is concerned, might be a little bit onerous, and they want to find ways of saving some money because they've already made great strides in cutting and reducing some of their budget deficits.
How successful is that?
Running low. What's that?
How successful has that been?
Well, in the case of Vallejo, they actually went through the entire bankruptcy process and actually have already emerged from bankruptcy, and they left all of the pension contracts alone. They actually didn't touch any of them. They just got through reorganizing so they can get back to providing services and so forth. Stockton is still under review. They're in the midst of the bankruptcy process, so it's a wait and see how it's going to end up. I believe it's going to be in the hands of some Superior Court judge in San Francisco that'll eventually decide.
So
San Bernardino is very recent as well. So,
wait, Mike, with Vallejo then, if they left all the contracts in place, where did they save money?
Well, they had come to agreement in order to, with not just the town, the city itself, in terms of where they could reduce expenses, reduce the number of employees that they would have working there, but also they had to negotiate with the municipal bond insurance companies that were getting paid, for the most part, 100 cents on the dollar, and they found, for the ones that were not insured, they found some of those constituents that were going to get paid less than 100 cents on the dollar. So there were some savings there.
Yeah, I hope the
bankruptcy details.
I hope the vendors didn't get hurt.
Well, the vendors got delayed, not so much as they were getting a haircut. They were more delayed than anything else.
Mike, this is an important question because when you bring up municipal investing with clients, one thing they always fire back on is that some of these organizations, counties, different institutions owe a lot of money in the future. I included corporate bonds in that as well. And everyone right now is talking about the unfunded pension liabilities of all these institutions, CalSTRS, CalPERS, to name a few. But I think, we've seen San Jose recently, in San Jose pass some pension reform initiatives. And I read in the Journal and other places that's happening on the East Coast and many places. Can you explain, what's going on here from a pension reform standpoint, how that affect municipal investing and what the future looks like?
Yeah, we'll try to be brief about it. It can go on for a bit, but in California specifically, if you look at the major pension plans at the state level, they're actually in relatively good shape. I mean, in spite of the headline news, and yet you kind of have to ignore the absolute number of unfunded liability, but on a percentage basis, yes, it used to be closer to 100 a decade ago, but now where you have, the teachers roughly about 70-75% funded, and then the employee unions over 80% funded. That was as of 2010. Those numbers are not nearly as onerous than if you look at some other states like Illinois and some of their major unions that are between 30 and 40% funded. So when you talk about seriously underfunded, it's still at the stage where it's manageable. It's not very helpful for the overall state budget because the liability is growing, and so it's more important that it's attacked now rather than later. And it looks like some steps have been taken recently. I know there was some legislation that was sent on in Sacramento that is really geared towards impacting new hires, by increasing their employee contributions or developing that hybrid defined benefit plan, defined contribution plan,
Right.
or just increasing retirement ages. The tools to help cure some of these issues are in place, not just in California, but I think we've talked about it before, is that it's spreading across the country, where I think at not just the state but also the local level, they are getting that religion that it has become a huge problem that can't be put off way into the future. And again, from a bondholder's perspective, it is manageable in California in how much they owe every year for their annual required contributions to the employees union for their retirement and for their health care.
They should
But
just
it is
be
going
like
to
the,
be a real serious and growing problem from a bondholder's perspective if something's not done about it anytime soon.
Yeah,
And that will probably end up being reflected in the ratings and in the bonds prices or yields.
Yeah, Mike, we should just have the municipalities do what the federal government does, just print more money. Oh, yeah, that's right. They're not allowed to. Okay, Mike, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio.
That was awesome.
We're talking with Mike Dawson, who is quite the expert as a portfolio manager for MFS mutual funds, specifically in the municipal bond department. We're going to have you on again someday, okay?
Well, no, I appreciate it, and again, a shout out to my mom, Pat Dawson, a longtime California municipal bond investor up there at San Rafael. And of course, I got to give a shout out to my boy Cubes Bullion.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Thanks again, Mike, for joining us. Okay. Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. You know our show. It's where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Shipp of RPM Mortgage. And today's trivia theme is shows on cable TV. I thought that's kind of interesting.
I'll do good on that one.
You will do well. I know you will. Don't forget to email us questions at edward@bestofinvesting.com and listen for your questions on the air. We're also on television, Comcast 26 on Saturdays at noon. Now, today's special guest is Mark McAlonan. I got that right. All right.
Easy for you to say.
He's a business owner who's going to share some stories with us about how to deal with employees and problems that come up with owning a business. Mark, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So you and I were talking one time about the fact that you're a business owner, you have a number of employees, and sometimes you run into conflict resolution issues.
Yep.
Give us an example.
Well, there's not a whole lot of examples, hopefully, on a day-to-day
Yeah.
thing, but
Right.
guys with 34 employees, and it's a physical environment down at my tire business. They get in minor conflicts, so arguments are one end of it, and it's gone physical before. So.
Oh, that's not good.
That's never a good thing. That's somebody's going to be in trouble somewhere, whether it's me with a lawsuit or somebody's employment terminated.
Well, it was just me and my secretary one time. We got a little physical. She beat the crap out of me. I'm just kidding.
Secretaries will do that.
Yeah.
So how have labor laws, the changes in labor laws over the last 10 years, Mark, how have they affected the way you run your business, and what kind of changes have you had to kind of make, given that you have so many employees?
Yeah, they have changed, and really what's changed is the compliances. So you need to tell your employees through posting bulletins on the walls and posters of all their rights, and that's a good thing. It tells them where to go if they get hurt. It tells them who to call if anything isn't right with your business. So what you're doing is you're giving them information that will help them sue you.
Yeah, that's exactly
And
what
not
Thank
only
you very
that,
much. May I have another?
you probably had to remodel the shop to add extra wall space for all the posters.
Right. Move a couple gumball machines out of the way, and but it has to literally be posted in their lunch area if they're lucky enough to have one, and they do. So they sit down and you get 15 guys staring at a poster of all the things that could be wrong, whether it's toxins, which we're clean on that, or just employee abuse or not getting their 10-minute breaks. And there's attorneys' phone numbers, doctors' phone numbers, Latino attorneys' phone numbers. So, and then these guys also are soliciting your employees especially if you have some Latino guys. And as great at workers as everybody is for me, they are being educated on how to go after their employer if there's any sort of a problem, from a knee to a fist fight to an argument to unfair treatment. Everything's got to be perfectly equal.
Well,
Now, have your like employee handbooks, have they grown in size? I saw one not too long ago that was almost like a phone book, and I'm thinking, who reads those things?
No, it's grown from a 2-page old school thing back in the 60s, which really was a nothing to it, to,
Yeah.
just like you said, a phone book of rules and regulations. And I don't know if anybody's ever really read that thing all the way through.
But the thing is that you have to have one, right? I mean, isn't that the whole idea? Not that you have to. I mean, you're not legally required. But
Hold on. An attorney once told me about these handbooks. He says all you're doing if you have a handbook is you're giving a bat for them to beat you with.
Well, that
Yes,
was,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
my point of having
Yeah.
the thing on the wall. But yeah, exactly that. And then you have to have meetings, of course, your safety meetings and things of that nature, and to re-educate them and remind them of go to this handbook, go to the wall charts for anything that might be ailing you or upsetting you.
Do you have government regulators that come in to make sure all those posters are posted?
Yeah,
like
they-
the coffee stains or?
They do. No, yeah, well, you don't see the fancy chandeliers at my place, but you will see the coffee stains. But that keeps tire prices down, so forgive my sloppy shop.
No,
Yeah.
No. I was thinking coffee stains might obliterate the
Oh, yeah, I get
attorney
you.
to call. Or,
I get you. Yeah, no, we have employee meetings, and again, it's to remind them, and we have a regulator that comes by through Workman's Comps, which is is the catalyst of the whole thing. If you're going to take action against your employer, it's usually through Workman's Comp, and they come and check me out. They look at my meeting schedules. They look at all my things that are up, as well as just all the safety things, safety
OSHA.
classes,
A lot of
OSHA.
OSHA stuff. Yeah. So give us an example, because the audience is listening on the edge of their seat, waiting to hear
Oh, I'm
some
sure
of these.
they are.
Some of these
Exciting radio.
Well, some of these situations where you've had employees where you've had to actually kind of be, I guess, a mediator.
Yeah.
Where it's like
especially
one guy wants
your
another guy
line of
fired.
work has some hefty tools that.
Yeah,
really.
and some hefty guys that go with those tools.
Yeah.
And I loved it back in, I've been doing it a long time, but, back in the early 70s, it was great. Two guys have a problem, you go, hey, you guys, if you can be back in 20 minutes, take it around the back of the building. And then one guy would come back with a patch of his hair missing and a black eye, and then, so we had a new boss. Whoever won that match was the ruler of that territory.
And they got along fine.
And they
after
got
that.
along fine. They were best friends, and it was a
That's it.
handshake and no more fights.
Playgrounds
but-
when we were kids. Yeah.
and it's funny, but there's one situation, and we handle everything internally, but we actually had one guy call the police as he got in a beef with one of his friends and his cousin. So this 6-foot-tall, good-looking Santa Fe police officer showed up, and she got the guys in there, and she said, "What kind of a sissy are you? Why don't you call your mommy next time you get in a fight with your cousin?"
that's great.
She goes, "I got people laying on the street with stab wounds in here, and you're calling me over here because he said what to you?" And he said, "Well, how did it go?" And he said, "Well, I told him to, blankety blank." And she said, "Okay, you're under arrest. You broke the law. You cannot instigate a fight with profanity and call names. So there is a law for that." So he said, "Right now, you're the only guy that did anything wrong. Where's the other guy?" "Well, he left." "So, okay, so you're the only guy that's in trouble. You called the police. You broke the law. You said, whatever they said. I don't want to say it on the radio, and she chewed him out so bad and humiliated him in front of the other 30 guys that she basically said, "Go call your mommy next time you have a
That's
little-
great.
little
That
fight."
is
Yeah,
great.
that
I
is
love
fabulous.
that.
Yeah, then it comes back to me and how I handle it. So I've got to take these guys generally one at a time, get their stories, and I'm still old school, so I want to give them both the benefit of the doubt and give them an opportunity to keep working because, technically everybody has the right to have a safe working environment.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. So if you can tell them how you're going to make it safer for them, and you can discourage any further arguments, things like that. That's what I do, and I always try to keep the peace. Both guys are still working for me, and
Oh, good.
and they're both still cousins.
Are they still cousins?
By,
Yeah.
by blood.
yeah. One way or another.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here, and again, the trivia theme is cable shows on cable TV. All right, you ready for this? On the TV show Shark Tank, what kinds of sharks are pictured on the show to highlight the show? All right, and we'll be right back. Excellent.
That was good.
That's fun, huh?
That was easy.
Nice and easy.
Well, it's probably not a sand shark, huh, Mark?
I think it's hammerhead.
It's a hammerhead
Is it a
shark.
hammerhead?
It's hammerhead. Very good. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Onf of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is TV shows on cable TV. Ready? On the show Shark Tank, what kinds of sharks are pictured on the show to highlight the show? Robert, you know the answer.
I'm not real familiar with the show, but I'm pretty sure it's a loan shark.
It's a loan shark. No, that would
Wait, you talking to me?
Yeah. Okay, we'll let our guest answer that. What's the answer?
I think it was Hammerhead.
It is hammerhead shark.
Indeed.
Very good. Okay, we are in the studio with Mark McAlonan.
That's correct.
And we've been talking about dealing with employees. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, because Mark, you said that you actually take, if you have a situation between employees, you might take them separately. And I was just reading something on the internet, and they made a suggestion. They said don't meet with them separately because you might have each individual tell you the story, trying to polarize the situation and trying to see your side. But actually, I think you mentioned that you would meet with them separately and then meet together.
Yeah, you got your internet answers, and then you have your real life answers.
There you
so
go.
When two guys are in a beef, the first thing you want to do, of course, is take them and separate them. Otherwise, you got two guys yelling their point of the story at the same time. So we separate them, talk to them, and we rarely have any incidences up at this is one I can think of in the last 10 years. But separate them, get their stories. Both guys, it's the other guy's fault 100% of the time. You know that going in. How do they want to resolve it? They always want the other guy fired. Maybe that's easy for me. Maybe that's impossible for me. And then you bring them back together and say, this is how we have to make this work. This is a team. And I run it like a football team. This is a team. So this guy has got your back. If you wouldn't be doing what you're doing unless he's blocking for you, so to speak. So get the guys back together, make them realize it's a team group, make them realize they're both going to go. And again, it's how everybody else is looking at you and how they perceive how you've handled the situation. If you do nothing, it's the worst thing you can do.
Exactly.
So-
Well, that part the internet did agree with you
Okay,
on.
great.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
They also had said that don't believe for a moment that the only people who are affected by the conflict are the participants. So that's a good point. I mean, if the other employees see how you handle it, they're
Yeah.
going to have a lot of respect for you. And
Well, exactly. Or they're not going to follow the same suit. They get in a beef with a guy. They know if they've pushed him or whatever the situation is, that's a no-no. And here's how it happens. So basically, how you handle those things, you always handle it with a warning, a written notice to each guy, and then usually what you should do is suspend them. So a suspension gets a message across to them, and the warning notice makes it legal that you've warned them, and 3 warning notices, and time's up.
Has that changed lately? Is it harder to fire someone today than it was 5 or 10 years ago?
Oh yeah, I mean you fire a guy, you get a guy that steals from you, and you fire him. He is entitled to things. Unemployment's one of them. You lay a guy off, and he has a hard time fighting for unemployment, or if they quit because of any reason, they have to go home to be at home with their children. In a secretary point of view, they have a harder time getting unemployment than the guy you fired. But there always is a fallback if you fire a guy, and we haven't had any of that going on. Our employees have stayed with us forever. I've got guys that are 52 years, but and
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
and right on down the line.
That's how old I am.
Exactly.
this guy's 120.
Yeah. No, but literally, and then you have my new guys that stayed. I really can't think of anybody that I've had to fire.
Now, let me ask you, is a lot of that have to do with pre-screening when you hire them? Or, I mean, I know you've got a great organization. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. But, not everybody has employees who've been with them for a really long time. So what do you attribute that to? How do you keep employees for a long time?
Give them more money. No.
No. But I know money is only a small motivating factor.
No, everybody has to feel part of the team and valuable, I think, is a key thing. So I truly depend on those guys from the bottom up, and the guys in the back shop are the guys that are really making us or breaking us. Our prices are low. That message is out there. The service and turning cars around and keeping those guys going, and therefore being grateful to them and letting them know that, whether it's at Christmas time with bonuses or verbals all the time. And you got to let those guys know on the front line that are blocking for the the prima donnas.
Yeah.
Right.
That they're the nucleus of the whole thing. They're the backbone of the team.
The thing that I've noticed the biggest change for me, because I run more of an office staff, Mark.
I mean, I've literally been going to his tire shop for almost 40 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah,
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
you're very welcome. Why? It's because not only do they have the lowest prices, but the service is really good, and it's amazing how honest they are. I mean, they don't just sell you a tire if you can fix, let's say, the flat. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And I've been just very appreciative of how honest they are. And it's one of those things where I can. It's funny, their commercials say, oh, come bring your wife and your daughter, whatever. And I've literally done that. I've just said to my wife, just go ahead and just go there, because I trust them enough.
Well, thank you.
Now, what I want to know is you always, you've got on your window, and you've had that up there for a while, and on your ads too, you say, we beat Costco. How do you beat Costco?
Well, we shop them. So that came out some years ago, and I put up there a blanket message, we beat Costco. Their attorneys came back to us and said, you don't beat us. You don't sell toilet paper and sunglasses and watches and things like that. So he said, you need to put up a percentage of any percentage will get you out of the legal situation, blanketing
That's nice.
that statement saying, and I said, that's a fair deal. So in the very small corner, there's a percentage of that in there that's handwritten in. We beat Costco, and I can't remember if it's 80 or 90 or 100%.
120% of the time.
We don't beat
No.
them on toilet paper and tuna. We beat them on tires. So 100% of the time.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
great.
that's amazing. Think about that.
And I studied
That's
them.
amazing.
Costco's
because
always the lowest on everything.
and the
except
volume
for
they
this.
have.
Right, and a lot of people go there because they just
Yeah.
assume that
Yeah,
they're the
and
lowest, and they're going
That's the thing. It's a warehouse mentality.
Yeah.
You see that big warehouse up there, and you automatically assume that's the lowest thing. And especially with some of the ladies that are in the market, we have become a big part of my customer basis. I'd say it's up to 70% of the people who are walking that door to buy tires, whether the husbands send them in there or not, are women.
Yeah.
But they truly have that warehouse is cheaper always.
Sure.
And so my message is on TV, and another ad will be coming out. You want to buy your mustard? Go to Tahoe. Go to Costco.
In the automotive industry, there's always this fear that women get taken advantage of. Like buying a new car, you're going to get some salesmen to pull the wool over their eyes. And so in theory, it would carry over into the tire business, and maybe it does. But not at your place.
Well, more probably in the mechanic business, because a mechanical
sure.
business is a gray area under the car that nobody knows what's under there, and they don't know what a ball joint is or a tie rod in. But women,
My girlfriend one time, she took her car in for a tune-up, and the guy said, "You better come look here. Your engine's missing." And she said, "It was here when I drove in."
yeah,
That's a true story.
No.
It is.
He wanted to sell her a new engine?
those
No,
Volkswagens have the engine.
the timing was off. Her engine was missing. The timing was off.
I
She
get it now.
thought the engine wasn't there.
Is that a
Guys,
lot?
thank you very much for joining us in the studio. If you want to hang out, we're going to talk some other
Indeed.
other kinds of business stuff.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
You're very
it.
welcome. We're going to cut to our second commercial break, and again, the theme is shows on cable TV. Where does the TV show Pawn Stars take place? And we're going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best in Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage.
Nicely said.
Thank you very much. Okay, when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. The television show Pawn Stars, where does that take place? Anybody?
Kentucky?
Kentucky. Come on, you know where
We
it
could do
takes
a whole
place.
show on the cable station reality shows.
That's true. Well, I got one more after this. Come on, anybody?
L.A.,
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, Las Wages, as they say. Okay, we received actually, Mark, you were reading something in the newspaper that I thought was interesting.
Well, they just, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the fourth segment, but the Bay Area August home sales just came out actually today, and highest home sales in the Bay Area since August of 2006. Which was near the height of the market, so it's pretty amazing. We'll get into a little bit more of that later. But what was interesting
That's in monthly volume? Or?
in monthly volume, yeah. And so anyway, but I was reading about in that article it talked about the most active lenders for Bay Area home buyers, and the number 2 lender, the first was a bank, which will go unnamed, but the the company that did the second number 2 in Bay Area home loans was RPM Mortgage.
You must have been pretty busy there,
Which-
Robert.
Our own Robert Schiff here.
Which is a bank, but just a mortgage bank.
A mortgage bank,
That's
yeah.
nice to hear and not surprising to know the volume of the loans. Some of the larger banks, as you say, to go unnamed, are backing out of the industry in certain ways. They are fed up with the regulations, or they want to use their money other ways, or they're retrenching and.
Well, obviously, you guys have competitive rates, or else you wouldn't have been so
Yes,
busy.
yes, yeah, and the longer we do, and the bigger industries that will buy mortgages or want to support them, see the quality of the loans we have are very strong, and there's very little foreclosures or forfeits or late payments, so it gets better and better, and people are acknowledging it and realizing it. That all helps. Thank you for that information.
All right. Tell you what, we'll go right into the email time, because we received an email for you that says, what is the highest LTV, I assume that means loan to value, that I can get on a conventional loan?
Well, the answer, as Mark mentioned in any of these questions, is basically it depends.
That's no answer.
But,
Give us the real answer.
The highest loan to value you can get in these days, when everybody used to be able to get 100% financing, the answer to the highest you can get is 100%.
It used to be 115 or 120 in some cases.
Those
but that was-
old cash-out purchases.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But if you are a veteran, you can get 100% financing.
And the VA program still do that?
On the VA program, they will still do it, and there's no mortgage insurance. There's an upfront fee.
What's the 3%?
The 3.5% is for FHA loans, Federal Housing Authority, and you
Okay.
can get a loan with 3.5% down, and also you can have the seller pay a significant, if not percentage, if not all of the closing costs. So I've had people literally, with all the closing costs, and there are significant fees to an FHA loan, but they still can come in with as little as 3.5% down. And the way real estate prices have declined and rents have increased, even sometimes they will be paying monthly fees equal to or maybe even less than a comparable rent. Probably not so much in the general Bay Area, but if you go outside a little bit.
But they have to do full doc.
Yeah, everything, everything that I deal with is full doc. They want to see your taxes, they want to see everything, and everything is questioned and dotted and crossed.
What's the fastest you can do a loan?
And it'll do a 20-day close.
That's pretty fast.
Other than that, most of the banks are taking well more than a month, say 45 days to really process a loan and close it.
No wonder you guys are number 2 in the Bay Area. So are there any stated income loan products at all? Have any of them come back on the market?
As far as I know, when I get somebody who can only qualify that way, I turn to my favorite hard money person and come to you.
Are you kidding me?
No, I know
4%
when they call and
versus
say I want to get a loan, what's your income, and they tell me, and my response is,
Can you prove it?
do you own a TV? Have you not heard their changes in the mortgage industry in the last several years? No, you do need to qualify. And then you get people, of course, well, but, what does your taxes show? Well, it shows 100,000. Well, that's your gross. And what about your net? Well, I don't need to show you my net. I'm just going to use my gross. And then I think, well, perhaps
Pay
there's
no
a
attention to the
person
man
I
behind the
should
curtain.
have Mark call. So.
Yeah, really.
Well, and the private lending industry has responded. There are companies that have, like soft hard money is what we call it, that's kind of in between bank financing and the kind of hard money loans that we often do, which is to real estate flippers. But if you do have stated income, there are products that have been coming out of the woodwork for you, and they are in the single-digit rates, and some of them are pretty compelling. So if you've got a great opportunity to buy a house, there are some, anywhere from 699, 799, which still is not.
That's awfully good in this,
It's not.
And then
not
you can,
great, but it's better than.
But if it's not being able to buy the house, it's,
That's exactly compared to what?
Because in a year they'll probably be able to be in a better situation and
Exactly.
get out of that loan.
Hard money and private money historically has always been a little bit more conservative in the loan to value. So whether it's a purchase money loan or a cash out refi, up until recently, the max amount was about 65%, but I've been doing more 70%, and in some cases 75% purchase money loans, depending on the neighborhood and the strength of the borrower. So hard money, unlike what some people think, has never really been 100% financing money. Now, if you're a real estate investor and you're looking to buy fix and flip, there is 100% or near to 100% financing available, and it's usually in the combination of like a first and a second. But the catch is the person who's providing the second for, let's say, up to 100% financing on a maybe a fix and flip purchase, they're going to want to split the profits with you in some form or fashion. A lot of them want 50%, so they're going to be your equity partner, basically whether you like it or not, which in some cases maybe you like it because either your money's all tied up in maybe another property that you have on the market and you want to keep your crew busy, or maybe you're getting started in real estate, you've taken a bunch of courses, you've got your team lined up, and you can't seem to get started because you don't have enough money to get in the game, working with a first-second combination where the second is basically your partner.
But and that's
is a
not
good
too bad
idea.
either, because then you can actually, sometimes the borrower in that case wants an equity partner in that
Right, they
case.
want an equity partner anyway.
Yeah,
Right,
because
so-
they also
A
that
lot of
way
the
they don't get
guys,
foreclosed.
in the trades or who were doing it before and now don't have the wherewithal to jump in by themselves. That would be a great opportunity.
Sure,
They
but also
create
you
a
have
job and
well, what I was thinking of is that ordinarily, you have a second mortgage, you just automatically would just foreclose if there's a problem. But in this case, if there's potential profits to be made, then I would think that the second might work with you a
Well,
little bit more.
they're
your
your
partner.
cheerleader, and number two,
Yeah.
they're even a project manager in many cases. So this is a recent development. This wasn't really around a year ago, but now that most people believe the real estate market has bottomed out and it's even starting to tick up, and now we've got in some neighborhoods it's no longer a buyer's market, but it is in a way a seller's market, because you put something on the market and you're more often than not you get multiple bids. So for someone who is looking to get into real estate investing and they don't have the equity, this new program, it's referred to in the business as a shared appreciation mortgage. It's a second mortgage generally behind maybe a hard money first, which is less expensive. It doesn't have a
Just
profit
call it
share.
SAM.
Yeah, it's a SAM
Share
loan. That's
of-
exactly
share-
right. So
SAM.
there's a whole bunch of SAM lenders in the Bay Area right now, and I know many of them. So I used to get phone calls all the time from flippers or prospective flippers saying, "Hey, do you know any equity investors you could refer me to?" And of course, my answer would be no, because my investors, my lenders are my clients. I'm not going to turn them over to you. But now I've got a yes answer. I say, well, no, I don't have any equity partners I can refer you to, but I have lenders who are essentially the same, that
Yeah.
will participate with you. So that's good news for flippers.
And here is the third and final trivia question. What's the name of the reality show that follows individuals who just can't seem to throw anything out? And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. And we still have Mark McAlonan still in the studio here. And when we cut to the third final commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What's the name of the reality show that follows individuals who just can't seem to throw anything out?
Piggies.
No. Piggies? Anyone?
Borders.
Hoarders, that is correct. Very good. I'm not sure if
way
you
too
guys
much
would know that
TV.
one. Mark, you also said that you've got a lot of interesting data to share with us.
Well, this week, a lot of real estate data was released, and it kind of shows both sides of the spectrum. And the real estate market's still, kind of in a quandary. On the one hand, you've got, August home sales. The numbers were just released in the Bay Area and in California overall. Were the highest August in 6 years. So, so we're up. The sales volume for the Bay Area is up 14%. In some counties like San Francisco and Marin and Napa, it was up over 30% year over year, the sales volume. So, and the median price is up 10%. So, if you listen to the associations or ask any realtor, they'll tell you, hey, happy days are here again. Real estate's on the rebound. But then, then you look at another article this week that where the numbers came out called Homeowner Blues. And that one talks about how, well, for example, in Nevada, nearly 60% of all homes in Nevada are worth less than what's owed on them.
Well, you said they were underwater.
They're
I said,
underwater,
and I said,
yeah.
wait a minute, how could they be underwater? They're not near the
Water-
ocean.
Lake Mead.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay.
California is 30%, so still 30%.
30%, every third house in California is underwater. That's an amazing statistic.
Yep.
So if you're living in a house, you can look to your left and your right, and if they're not underwater,
You
you're
are.
in trouble.
There, right, exactly.
One of you is. Yeah.
So you've got 30%
Wow.
in California underwater, but yet home sales are the best August in 6 years, and we know that home prices have started to tick up a little bit. So
So what do you think? That's a function of geographical locations? or-
No. Well, here's what's happening. Then the other articles I was going to share with you is one that says no signs of foreclosure wave. So you've got 30% of homes underwater, and you still have 170,000 homes in California that are in default. They're either and that means either a notice of default has been filed by the bank or a notice of sale has been filed, and there's
Does that mean the bank is just going to wait till the market gets better?
They're in the foreclosure process.
Right, they're
And
in the
those are the
foreclosure
ones that
process.
the banks have finally started the foreclosure
Right.
process.
So you got 100
All the other loans probably, I'll bet 10 times that amount that they have non-performing loans.
Non-performing that
They
have
just haven't done anything with,
Yes.
waiting for the market to get better.
Well,
No?
trying to figure out what to do.
What to do. Yeah.
Right, and so you've got these, you've got the shadow inventory, as people refer it to, but here a report by foreclosureradar.com, and these guys are about the sharpest website out there for this data, and it says, they continue to see reports that there will be this wave of foreclosure sales after the election or the start of 2013, but the lack of foreclosure starts, because foreclosure starts are down dramatically. I mean, they're a fraction of what they were in years past, and if they're not starting foreclosures now, there's no wave coming. There's not going to be a wave of foreclosures for at least the next 5 to 6 months. So
And it's more than that. What I hear is there'd be a wave of modifications from the banks.
That's exactly what.
Everybody can see that it's more to the bank's benefit to modify them, with the exception of the banks. They don't seem to get that.
Well, eventually, the government's going to kind of
The
probably force
government
them.
is already not forcing, but trying to put a lot of pressure
Strongly
on the
suggest
banks.
it,
Strongly
yes.
suggesting
Well,
that
they
it's
came out
in
with-
everyone's benefit.
Yeah.
If you have somebody's living in a house and they're not paying, the bank's getting no money. If they foreclose, it's probably a property that's going to take a long time to rehab and get back on the market.
And I'll bet that these people would keep the principal balance 100% of it if they could just get a lower rate and make payments that because they don't want to get
That's
forced out of their
primarily
house.
true, and people primarily are paying, they're paying more than rent, they don't want to lose their good credit. The
Yep.
banks have not been negotiating with them, but they're starting to, case by case.
And you still have the QE3 with now they're talking about keeping interest rates low till 2015.
Right.
So if you're wondering why, if 30% of homes are underwater and there's still 170,000 homes in some process of foreclosure, why home prices are increasing and why we're seeing record sales. And I think what's happening is, if you look at this number, during the foreclosure boom in 2008, in California, banks were foreclosing on about 27,000 properties per month.
Wow.
Right now, that's 5,500. So it's gone from 27,000 to 5,000. And if you just do some quick math and say, well, at 5,000 a month that they're actually foreclosing on, if there's 168,000 homes in some process of foreclosure, you divide that by 5,000, you get nearly 3 years to work through that inventory. So the banks aren't in a hurry to foreclose. It's politically incorrect. They're doing a lot of workouts and modifications. So I don't think if you're a real estate investor and you're holding your breath waiting for the next wave or the second wave or the tsunami of pending foreclosures, you may be waiting a long time. So
So it might be just a
I think
steady
people
stream?
like Mark, that you said that you were able to go in and buy a house and fix it up and sell it and make money. That's the kind of thing that somebody, if they have knowledge of the process, can still do well at.
Yeah, sounds like you have some time left.
And it doesn't mean that you're making your money because the value of property is escalating, and I don't think people should invest in property assuming just that the value is going to start increasing again. It's going to be a boom market. But it looks like it has bottomed out, and there's some level of stability in the market right now that didn't seem to exist before.
And certainly the rates are their best right now, and so it's like anything, you find a deal, and you compare it to your next door neighbor, and if it's enough room to make some money, and you know that the future buyers are going to get those great rates that are out there now. You got a shot at it.
That's right.
I have a lot of repeat flipper clients, rehabbers that are buying, fixing, and flipping, and they're having trouble finding good bargains right now because a lot of the inventory has been priced up. But the people who are making money in this market right now are the ones who are creative and doing their homework and looking for deals and writing lots of offers.
Well, some of the ones I see, they're bank REOs.
Yeah.
They're not that priced that great.
No, they're not.
There's just
The
getting
short
this-
sales, it's pre-foreclosure. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go knocking on doors or making offers on short sale opportunities, that's where the bargains are.
Yeah, or even the guy that's already on the market that they've been living there 40 years.
Yeah, that too.
Go
Yeah.
do a deal.
Want to thank Mark
McAlonan.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Okay, we're going to thank him for King's Tires being our guest. Thoughts for the day. Who was the first person to look at a cow and say, I think I'll squeeze these dangly things here and drink what comes out of it? Okay, and who was the first person to say, see that chicken over there? I'm going to eat the first thing that comes out of its tushy. Oh, that's nasty. Okay, tune in next week.
I don't think that's where it comes out.
I don't know. Where do I get these from? Tune in next week to the Best of Investing. Next week's guest is going to be Dan Roberts, who's running for Congress, and we're going to be talking a little bit of fiscal responsibility. And with that, we'll also be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.